Hello, I'm here to, go over the review. Please make sure that you remember that the test is on Friday. And that if you bring it if you bring it back signed on Friday, you will get 5 bonus points on your test grade. So the best you can make is a 105, which is pretty good. So first things first, let's go over the first question. Write how to change from a percent to a fraction. Well, the first thing I should do is write my percent over 100. That is because percent is always out of 100. The word per means like for every. And a cent is, well, 100, like a century, or like maybe like pennies, like 100 cents, something like that. So because we have 50%, the first thing I would do is write it over 100. The next thing I would do is simplify. Sometimes it's not possible, but in this case it is. Please remember the most common numbers usually are 2, 3, and 5 when you want to simplify. Don't quote me on it, but it usually works. If that doesn't work, maybe try 7, maybe try 11, multiples like that. So we have 50 and we have 100. Let's try dividing by 10. If we do that, the numerator will be 5 and the denominator will be 10. And we can make this smaller by dividing by 5. So 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 10 divided by 5 is 2. And that's how I change from my percent to my fraction. Okay, next we have fraction to percent. So let me pull up my fraction. The way to do that is kind of indirect. You have to basically change it from a fraction to a decimal to a percent. And so the way I would do that is by first changing it to a decimal. And so if you want to look over at that, let me do a little arrow so that we can talk about how to change from a fraction to a decimal. So I have my fraction. The first thing I should do is divide the numerator, which is a 1, by the denominator, which is 2. And so basically you would put the numerator on the inside and the denominator on the outside. Because it doesn't work, I'm going to add my 2 decimals and my 0. 2 goes into 10 5 times. And that's how I got 5/10 as my decimal. Cool. Now that I have my decimal, I have to change my decimal to a percent. So I'm going to swoop it down over here. The way to change a decimal to percent is by basically multiplying by 100. So I have my decimal, and I have to multiply it by 100. 5 times 0, 0. 5 times 0, 0. 5 times 1, 5. And then I move my decimal 1 place to the left because I only have one number after my decimal. The second step is to add a percent sign. I know it sounds obvious, but it's just for insurance. And so that's how I should get 50%. So I guess for this, you should write step 1, change from fraction to decimal. Oh, yeah. And step 2, change from decimal to percent. But that's how we went from fraction to decimal percent. So that's how we got 1/2 to 5/10, all the way to 50%. Now we need to talk about how to change from a decimal to a fraction. So I have 5/10. This one is actually pretty straightforward, but you need to be good at place value. That's very important because you write it how you say it. What that means is that this place value, whatever place value it's in, that will be your denominator. So this is in the tenths place. So you know it's 5/10, and you would say it 5/10 as a decimal. The next step is to simplify. like I said with this one, sometimes it will be in, you know, the smallest place. However, if you can simplify, you probably should. I'm going to divide by 5. Or 5 divided by 5, which is 1. 10 divided by 5, which is 2. And that's how I went from our decimal to a fraction. Okay, we're almost done. Last but not least, we need to change from a percent to a decimal. To do that, you basically divide by 100. So I have 50%, and I want to divide 50 by 100. Notice how I have my percent on the inside and then the 100 on the outside. I know that 100 doesn't go to 50, but let's try 100 into 500. Wow, it goes in 5 times. And so that's how I change from my percent to my decimal. You don't need to simplify because it's already in simplest terms. So how do you find the percent when given the whole and the part? So say that I have, let's say 50 people total, and then I have 5, people as a part. What I would do is go like this, and I would ask myself, what's the whole? It's 50. What's the part? 5. So because I know the entire thing is 50, I need to try to find out what 5 would be. So I'm going to chop it up into, let's say, 10 different pieces. 10 is always a safe bet because most numbers will be easily divisible by 10, and it'll kind of be easier for you to do it. However, if you really wanted, I guess 2 and 4 would also be acceptable. But whenever you're in doubt, just try 10. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And so please remember to label. So I have 5, 10, 15, 20 because I'm skip counting. 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, and 50. Now I need to do the percent. I know that because it's the whole thing is 100%. And then I have to do 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%, 70%, 80%, and 90%. And then I know that I had 5 as the part, therefore my percent should be 10%. And I forgot to make it clear. The reason why I'm skip counting by 10 is because I know that I have 100 as my total, and then I know that there are 10 equal parts. So I'm just dividing 100 into 10 equal parts, which is 10. I did the same thing with my bottom numbers because I had 50 as a total and then 10 different parts, which is how I got 5. This is kind of not related, but it reminded me of this. Please make sure that whenever you're stuck between 2 numbers, and you have to find the middle number, you basically add the 2 numbers that you're between and then divide by 2. So you add the 2 numbers you're stuck between and divide by 2. For example, if you're stuck between 2 and 4 and you were like, oh no, I have no idea what the middle number is. Don't worry, because you can add them together, which is 6, and then divide by 2, which is 3. So in case you didn't know, 3 is halfway between 2 and 4. Okay, so back on track. How do you find the part when giving the whole and the percent? So let's say that we were looking at 50 as a whole again, but let me give you an example like what we were doing. I'll give you 85%. So just like before, we know that the whole is from 0 to 50. That's the entire thing. And just like earlier, the entire thing is 100%. And I'll chop this up into 10 sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then I need to do my denominators, which is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and 45. And I'm just going to kind of write sideways so I can fit everything in. my gosh. I can't count by tens, I'm sorry. That's supposed to be 40%, 50%, and then 60%. Okay. So we're looking at 85%. We know it's halfway between 80 and 90. So we know it has to be here. But what's halfway between 40 and 45? Well, if we use my handy dandy rule over here, we know that it's 40 is one of the numbers we're stuck between, and 45 is the other. Oops, that's supposed to be 45. 40 plus